Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Inherent Vice. And this movie is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and it came out in 2014, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Josh Brolin. With the exception of Punch Drunk Love, this is the only PTA film I haven't seen. And I've seen half of Punch Drunk Love, but I shut it off halfway through it because I was just not in the mood for it. But I'll get back to it one day. And this was the only one out of his filmography that I haven't seen in his entirety. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to check it out now. I was always curious about it, and I heard that people weren't like excited to talk about it, and it was like kind of a bit of a chore to get through. It had some mixed reviews, so went in with an open mind, and I gotta say, I do have some mixed feelings about this movie. And there are things about this movie that I love. Like, the performances are really great. I thought Joaquin Phoenix did a great job. And I did like his character. He's kind of like a hippie, or like used to be a hippie and not really so much anymore. Like, he's kind of, in ways, moved on from that, but he doesn't really care about what people say about him because by the end of the day, like, what he does, he's most importantly, he's a private investigator, and he's investigating like someone who's missing, and you just go down this confusing journey, and it's very reminiscent to The Big Lebowski, but unfortunately not nearly as good. I'll say this much about it: for the first 30 to 40 minutes, I was really on board with it. I was excited to see where it would go, and things weren't connecting super well, but I was thinking to myself, okay, if it's like Big Lebowski, then we're just going to see a whole bunch of different things, and they're not really linked all too well, but they're just things that would naturally happen just to add to the confusion of like this whole journey, and you can kind of get inside the main character's head. Something like that, kind of reminiscent to like Under the Silver Lake, what that movie was doing. Just watching our main character go on this confused journey, and there's so much to explore. But the difference here is, after the first 40 minutes, the movie kind of just becomes insanely boring because I thought this movie was going to be a lot more lighthearted and wacky and fun than it ended up being based on like the first chunk of the movie, because that was kind of goofy and fun. But after a certain point, it just becomes 100% serious. And I do feel as though that was a big mistake for this movie. Not that it shouldn't be allowed to be serious at any point, but rather I just don't feel as though the plot of this movie is all that interesting, or at least the way that they handled it. Because, yeah, it's very confusing, and that's the point, like where the story is going. But I personally just didn't feel as though it paid off, and I do think this movie is way too long for what it is. It's 2.5 hours long, and it did kind of feel it. Not because any particular scene was bad, but rather there are parts of this movie that could have been improved on if they just lightened things up or just had things more interesting. But instead, it's just a bit too straight, and I just couldn't really get into it all that much. It felt kind of torn as to like what it wanted to be also. Like, was it supposed to be kind of lighthearted and fun? Was it supposed to be a serious crime thriller movie? And it's a mix of multiple things, and it just doesn't balance these things out for me, in my opinion. But going back to positives, I do think this movie is technically very well made. I do think this movie is very well shot. There's some very nice one-ers in this movie that I really loved. And I did like the music as well. And in the opening scene, it was like kind of eerie, subtly used. And that was something that I did like. And the music, it does work pretty well in the movie. And I don't really have any complaints with this movie on a technical level or with the performances. I thought it was all pretty great. And there were scenes that I did love even after that first 40 minutes. There were parts of it that really stood out. And, you know, there's like things that I will remember this movie for sure. But by the end of the day, what kind of breaks this movie apart is the script. And I just wish that it was tightened a bit better, or there were just more things going on in the story to keep me engaged, or I don't know exactly what this movie needed, but there's just something missing in this film that didn't quite click with me. And I would like to revisit this movie at some point because this is kind of a multiple watch film that does want you to watch it multiple times. And perhaps if you do that, you will get more out of it upon multiple viewings. And I feel pretty confident that this is one of those movies. But I'm not going to be rushing back to this movie, sadly. Even though I will give it another chance sometime in the future. Because I do want to see whether or not I'll get something new out of it. But overall, it was just kind of a worse version of something like The Big Lebowski, which is a movie that I really have grown to love. Because for the first few times I watched that movie, I didn't like it. And eventually just something clicked with me. And then I just understood what it was going for. And then I started to love it. Where this movie, there's things that I think are really great and things that I'm really in love with tonally. But who knows? I'll probably have to see it a second time. But for now, despite all my mixed feelings, it is a film that is worth watching at least once, and I'm curious as to what people have to say about it. It's a film to discuss, for sure. Yeah, I'll say that much about it. But overall, it kind of left me disappointed. I just wish that I was in love with it more. Like, even a movie like Hard Eight from Paul Thomas Anderson, I like better, even if I don't think that's one of his best movies either. At least with that movie, I was with it the entire time from memory. Whereas this one, not so much. I feel as though this is his most boring movie, but I wouldn't say bad. So check this movie out. It's interesting, for sure. And I'm curious as to what you all get out of it. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Inherent Vice a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below your thought of Inherent Vice, and my social media links. They will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Alien vs. Predator. And before I end this video, I do have to mention, yes, I know this video was supposed to be for popcorn, but that didn't happen because it was unavailable for me to watch for some reason. So I'll just have to get to that movie another time. So sorry about that. But anyways, Alien vs. Predator, hopefully nothing will go wrong with that. So look forward to my review for Alien vs. Predator, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.